Come to Jaha with serious issues that face our young people, especially the young women, which concerns issues of early marriage, female genital mutilation, and girls, even though there's free education, we see the figures in URR. In Banjul and KMC, there are more young ladies in high school than boys. But when you go to URR, CRR, the figures are low for the girls still, even though everything is free for them. So she will share her story with us, with the challenges and how she became successful at it when us, the older generation, tried everything and couldn't.
So I was born in Gambisara. I lived in Gambisara until 1994. I remember the year Yaya Jammeh took over. It was my dad and my grandmother that moved to Gambisara. And I was the first girl in my family, not the first girl, but the first child in my family to ever get enrolled in school. My mother's from Sierra Leone. And when we moved from Gambisara, because my dad is in the diamond trade, and he went to Sierra Leone as well as Angola, like most Sarahules in this country. And the reason why I remember she enrolled me in school is because for her, she felt like she wanted a better life for me. At the age of 14, my mother passed away. 3 months after my mother passed away, I was sent to America to get married to a man that I've never met. I was 15 years old. And after 2 months of being in that relationship, I ran away. When I ran away, I lived with my aunt and uncle. I remember before I went to the US, I was a student at Ndaus Comprehensive. A lot of people that went to Ndaus would remember me in middle school. I hated school. I hated education. If there was a hunting at the school, I was in charge of organizing it. If there was an every day, I was the leader at it. If there was any trouble making at Ndaus, you would always find me in it. And I remember when we start grade 9, I failed my grade 9 exam. And I remember Pa Juf and Auntie Vicky specifically said that I would not come back to Ndaus for grade 10. And this was around the time my mother passed away. But I knew that my family was about to ship me to America, so I didn't care. A lot of us got expelled out of Ndaus. All of my friends ended up in SOS. I personally was just there, pretty much. But I remember when I went to America and being forced into a marriage, something in me came alive, because at that time I didn't have my mom to tell me that, Jaha, you have to go to school. This is why education was important. And when I ran away from my marriage, living with my aunt and uncle, they didn't want me to go to school. And I personally went around in a lot of schools in New York trying to get someone to enroll me. And because I was underage at the time, no school would allow me in because they needed a guardian with me, which I didn't have. And the final school that I remember going to at the Bronx, I sat there, and when they told me without a guardian we wouldn't enroll you, I just broke down and started crying. And they called the principal and shared like how bad I wanted an education. And they enrolled me finally without a guardian. I was able to graduate at the 11th grade because at that point, all I did was read. All I did was educate myself. And then I found a job in Harlem at an African restaurant called Africa Kine. I remember at the time when I lived in the Bronx, I would go to work, like I would go to school in the morning, get off at 3 p.m., go to work. I wouldn't get off until 1 a.m. And there were days when I slept in the train because I was just that tired. Rather than going home every night, I spent a lot of nights sleeping in the train with mad people, with homeless people. And these are things that I've never shared because I feel like a lot of Gambians don't know that about me. After getting a high school education at the age of 17, I called my dad because I was tired of the life that I was living in New York, and I told him, find me a husband. I don't care where you do. I don't care who. I'll get married, and I promise I will stay in that marriage. So at the age of 17, I ended up remarrying. I moved to Atlanta. When I moved to Atlanta, I enrolled myself in college again. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration. I started a job working for Wells Fargo as a bank teller. I started rising because the Sarahule in me loves money. And anyone that knows anything about banking in America, you know that the more sales that you make, the more money that you make. I started from a teller, I went to a service manager, to a banker, to an investment banker. And I made a lot of money doing that. But then I also know that with my story of what I went through female genital mutilation when I was 1 week old, being forced to marry at the age of 15 once, and then again at the age of 17. I knew that I didn't want to see any other girl go through that. And I knew that the only way I can do something about this was to speak up about it. When I started Safe Hands for Girls, I didn't have much. I invested what I had into the organization. We went from an organization that I funded myself to where we are now. We're in 3 countries at the moment, and in 2018, we'll probably be in 7 countries. And we are about to launch one of the biggest campaigns on both FGM and child marriage. When I was called, I remember in 2016, I received a call from Time Magazine, and they told me, we have a confidential message to share with you. And I remember I went online and Googled what Time Magazine was, because at the time I didn't know what Time Magazine was. And I saw that it was the biggest magazine in the world. And then I gave them my email address. They emailed me and told me that I was named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. I remember I responded to the email and I was like, are you sure you're talking about Jaha Dukureh? I'm from Gambisara and I'm from the Gambia. And no one knows where the Gambia is. And I don't know what I did to be named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people. No one really knows who I am. But I think at that time, people got it. What I always tell people is, ideas lead and money follows. When I started Safe Hands, I didn't start this organization because I thought I was going to make money. No one gave me a dime to do what I do. But right now, I get paid to attend events like this and speak. I get paid a lot of money to do what I do. It's because of my passion. What we do as advocates, advocacy doesn't cost anything. Using our voice doesn't cost anything. And each and every one of us in this room is passionate about something. There's something that's going on in our societies that we're not happy with. And it's our moral responsibility as a society to get up and say something about it. The only thing that I had back then is my voice. And to this day, what I have is still my voice. And I will continue to use that as long as I'm alive, whether there's money or not. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. So as young people, I mean, one of the greatest things that I find about Gambia is the amount of talent that we have in this country and selflessness that we have in this country. I've been very, very fortunate to work with some of the most amazing young people in this country, and Alhaji Manka is one of them. Manka is a prime example of someone that's keeping the history of our country. During the time of Jammeh, he was there when he shouldn't have been there. And through our election, if there's anyone that collected pictures and documented what was happening in our history, is Alhaji Manka, and we need to give credit for that. Manka Ananga, Dauna. And he's there. Manka doesn't do what he does because of money. He does it because he genuinely cares. He worked with us when we didn't have anything, and to this day, when we have activities and we call him, he tells us, just pay for my way to get there. You don't have to pay me. And you don't find a lot of that in our country. And I think as young people, we need to get together and support one another. That's the beauty about the relationship that I have with people like Manka. It's like we may not be in the same field, but we believe in what each other does. And I think if more of us can get together and do that for one another, our country will move ahead. We need to support our own. With the FGM campaign, I was tired of white people talking about how barbaric our parents are. I was tired of the West controlling the narrative when it comes to female genital mutilation and some of these issues that we were facing. For me, this is my story. This is my culture. This is my lived experience. And if anyone is going to talk about it, it's going to be me. If anyone is going to talk on behalf of my sisters, it's going to be me. If you're going to make policies about our life, I need to be at that table because I have that lived experience. And I can speak to it more than anyone else. So, in a nutshell, that's my story. That's who I am. And thank you so much to Uncle TAF. I moved back to the Gambia in June of this year. And Uncle TAF is my neighbor. He was wonderful enough to allow me to stay at one of his apartments. And I've been living there, so I'm a renter in one of his apartments. But I think I appreciate someone like Uncle TAF because every single day he inspires me to want to be better. He inspires me to see what I want to be. And for me to see someone like him, a Gambian, to look up to is something that means a lot to me. So thank you, Uncle TAF, for creating this opportunity as well.